One of my biggest worries with Splatoon 3 was that they'd follow the same convention as the previous games when it came to the single player campaign. Most of the stages in those games felt like glorified tutorials that you had to clear in order to get all of the story, and even then there wasn't much of a story to get in the first place. Thankfully, the developers took note from Splatoon 2's Octo expansion when it came to the level design in Splatoon 3 and also improved the overworld experience. But just how good are these new stages? To find out, I decided to go through each stage and rank it according to 3 factors: creativity, challenge, and memorability, with a sparkle of personal preference and taste. If a stage fails at all 4 factors, it will go in the O rank for 0. If it's just one factor, it'll go in the K tier for cool with a K, which is not that cool. For 2 factors, it will get placed in the S tier to confuse the people who skip the intro. For 3 factors, it'll get to be an A tier since I gotta keep at least some conventions with the tier list that people usually do. And finally, B tier is reserved for the very best of stages. I'll be going through these stages in numbered order, but I will leave out all of the boss battles and secret stuff for the very end. So if for some reason you want to know about the normal stages, but want to avoid spoiling yourself on the bosses, I will let you know when we get to the spoiler section near the end of the video. Now without further ado, let's begin. Stage 1. Octarians in the crater? Yikes! The first stage of the story mode was a bit disappointing, since it literally just repeats the tutorial you did at the start of the game, reminding you how to fire your weapon, how to look around, and giving you a bunch of boxes and balloons to shoot at. The second half of the stage gives you a bit more to explore by presenting you with 3 different paths and giving you the opportunity to put Little Buddy to use. The final part of the stage shows off the main enemies you'll be facing throughout the game, the Octarians. But considering the stage name has Octarians in it, I was a bit disappointed to find out that it was just this one dude. And you don't even have to splat him, you can just show mercy and walk right by. Overall, it's a good intro stage, although I wish they didn't make the parts where you have to use Little Buddy an optional side route, so I have to give this a solid K. Stage 2. Sink into the ink and swim. Stage 2 really steps up the tutorial by giving you an inked path to follow and little treadmill launchers to keep your momentum going. This stage is a lot bigger but also feels very empty. My favorite part about this one is that the final section of the stage will have you loop in circles until you realize that you should look around and notice that there is a dash track on the wall. A good reminder that you might have to ink the walls to get around. S tier. Stage 3. Boxes locked, keys please. The layout of this stage is pretty much the same as in the first map, except this time you actually have to explore all of the areas and break all of the boxes and use Little Buddy to actually get around. I actually got a bit stuck on this stage in my first run of it since I completely missed the zip line on top of the pole. Thankfully, it wasn't hidden away in a super secret corner, but it did require a little bit of outside of the box thinking to get to that zip line and finish the stage. This was the most creative and challenging of the intro stages, so I have to give it A tier. Stage 4. What are they? Can we stop them? This was a simple splat the Octarians to move forward stage. There wasn't much to it in terms of challenge or creativity, just look around the corners and shoot the bad guys. I would give this O tier, but since it's the last stage in the tutorial, it made sense to have the player practice taking out a bunch of bad guys all at once, so K tier. From here, we'll be moving on to the Alterna stages, minor spoilers ahead. Starting with the future Utopia island, we have Stage 1, Get to Know Alterna, your only choice. This stage is where the structure changes over to the style of Splatoon 2's Octo expansion, including a weapon selector, an AI that will splat you if you fail, and a little desanitization area before you get into the stage. And what is the first stage? Well, it's got a similar layout to the first stage, but this time having you use a bunch of other Splatoon mechanics like gushers, fans, drums, squeegees, bounce pads, these rolly thingies, these wibble wobble rolly thingies, and the Trizuka special. It's a good stage that throws 90% of the game's mechanics at you in a somewhat safe area, so you can figure out what everything does. K tier. Stage 2. Octopods at rest tend to flip out. Here we get introduced to a new enemy type, which runs at you as it's trying to explode. The game has you going around corners as more and more of them show up. Eventually, there's just this one big massive chonker who looks like he's got blood pressure issues, but it was pretty satisfying to launch those guys back and watch them blow up all the boxes behind them. S tier. Stage 3. Splat you on the flip side. Platforms flip around with an Octarian on them and then they shoot at you. I'm a bit embarrassed to admit this, but this is the stage where I got splatted for the first time in this game. Maybe I shouldn't have ran into a room full of Octarians without a plan, and this felt like a slightly cooler version of the last stage from the previous area, so it gets K tier. Stage 4. Doors, 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 and more doors. This maze of a stage has you looking around for keys and activating pads that unlock more doors and platforms for you to get more keys and more activation pads. The puzzle structure of the stage was a nice break from all the the splat the enemy stages so far, so S tier. Stage 5, Relic Reconstruction. You gotta paint the Moai head, that's it. The only problem is they didn't play the Bing Bang song, so A tier. Stage 6, Zip, Splat and Jump. This is the first of many Spider-Man stages, and it also made me realize that Spider-Man would suck at being Spider-Man when he first started being Spider-Man. This thing felt so weird to aim and maneuver with. I completely forgot that I could use my main weapon for half the stage, so I would randomly try to Spider-Man slam into boxes and bad guys like an absolute idiot. And then the game hits you with a, alright, now you gotta use the Spider-Man skills to get to the high ground. And I was like, oh no, Anakin, we're done for. And then the game has you Spider-Man slam into the little pen at the end and lets you finish the stage, and it was a whirlwind of emotions and a great stage to introduce the special A tier. Stage 7, Becoming One with Your Small Fry. This is a Little Buddy only stage, but it starts off a bit slow, using Little Buddy to blow up balloons and make platforms spin around. But then you have to learn how to call back Little Buddy so that you can set up platforms in the right orientation and make your way up to the top. A tier. Stage 8, What Caused the Big Bang? You gotta shoot a balloon that's spinning around a bunch of boxes and rings. It's a pretty easy stage if you can aim, but once you get the hang of it, it really does become an easy stage. This also happens to be the best stage to farm power eggs with, since you get 300 eggs for completion, and it literally takes like 6 seconds to do it. A tier. Stage 9, The String's the Thing. Given all the promotional art and ads for this game, I kind of expected the tri-stringer to be a main weapon that you use during story mode, yet here it is, over 10 stages into the game. The stage itself is pretty bland since it's just trying to introduce the tri-stringer to the players, but it did have cool parts at the end where you have to shoot a fully charged shot and moving platforms so that they can explode and take out the guys with the shields. K tier. Stage 10, Deadly Dance Hall, Jump Jump. Finally, we get to see the upside down city from the promos, and instead of getting to explore it, we get locked in this box with a bunch of wave breaker octo stomps. This is the jumping version of Move It Station from Octo Expansion, and it is extra evil since it likes to bait you into the danger zone with small cans of power eggs. Pretty challenging, pretty memorable, pretty unique. V tier. Having finally finished the first area, it's time to move on to area 2, the Cozy Safe Factory. And there we have stage 1, Twirling, Swirling, Whirling. A bunch of spinning platforms and Octarians to fight off, except you don't actually gotta fight the Octarians to complete the stage. Makes me wanna try a pacifist run of this game, but not much more to say about it. K tier. Stage 2, Absorbency and You. Remember how the first stage of the previous area threw all the mechanics at you? Well, now you get one of the mechanics and nothing else. Use the sponges to get around the stage, splat the Octarians getting in the way. Pretty simple and straightforward. K tier. Stage 3, Soak It To Me. Okay, looks like they did forget to introduce the soaker blocks on that first stage. So here's the dedicated stage to this new mechanic. Paint the base blocks and more blocks show up. They eventually disappear. They can also get filled with enemy ink color. They can also be used as shields, and Little Buddy can also be the one inking them. This stage felt a bit more put together than the sponges stage, so S tier. Stage 4, Splitting Crosshairs. I can't believe they put Righteous Rails in this game. Why? For those who don't know, Righteous Rails is one of the most evil stages from Octo Expansion. You're moving forwards on a grind rail and you have to break all of the boxes so that the next grind rail can activate. Miss a box and you die. There are no checkpoints. I did this stage with the recommended weapon and could not get through it. Why did they pick the worst weapon for this stage as the recommended one? I have no idea. I tried it again with the Nautilus and it wasn't so bad, but the fact that they suddenly spiked the difficulty and suggested that you use the worst weapon for this stage, I gotta give it O tier. Stage 5, Tread Heavily. This is the first crab tank stage, and oh boy did they get creative with this one. It starts out kinda bland, having you splat some enemies and shoot some panels on the wall, but then the game gives you this giant soccer robot man that's built out of a bunch of boxes that you have to break. His moving body parts serve as obstacles as you climb your way up. He's got octo torpedo shooting out of his chest, and then you gotta jump on top of his hands to reach the final goal. I give this stage a chef kiss and a V tier. Stage 6, Getting Lost in 3 Easy Steps. This is another maze stage, but you can climb up the wall, so it felt a bit stupid and easy at first. But then when you think you're done, the maze flips, so instead of it being a horizontal maze, it is now a vertical maze. It was cool, creative, and memorable, but sadly not very challenging. A tier. Stage 7, The Ink Conservation Project. A limited ink stage where you have to use the ink wheels and pufferfish to get through. These stages post a nice challenge and have a creative way to use various mechanics. S tier. Stage 8, Switching Things Up. This is a sort of maze stage where you gotta splat some enemies and then hit the switches to open up the path to the next area. The only problem is that some of the switches are hidden in some pretty stupid places, so I had to go backtrack and look all over the place, upside down, in and around, to find the last switch that I was missing. It wasn't really a challenge, it was just annoying. K tier. This wraps up the second area, so on to the Cryogenic Hopetown we go. Stage 1, climbing the corporate splatter. This stage is just another one of those that require you to make it to the end of the stage while beating up a bunch of Octarians along the way, but imagining these guys as busy corporate employees made it a bit more fun. These guys are over here having a meeting trying to decide when they'll add Big Run to Splatoon 3. There's Dan the janitor and Janice who just started at HR. S tier. Stage 2. They said we'd have flying cars, and we do, kinda. This stage is like if an airport was managed by someone who's as organized as I am, which is not organized at all. And first it starts out all normal, just dodge the enemies and go towards the top, but then the stage takes you for a spin with a non-climbable wall, making you have to hitch a ride on the wings of an Octo Zeppelin. And then you have to do it again the other way around while fighting off Octo Torpedoes, and you just gotta jump down at the end. Really well designed stage. A tier. Stage 3, Ink Wheels. Experience tomorrow's technology today. Okay, so these things are called ink wheels. I like how this stage used a combination of the ink wheels and the soaker blocks, although the final section felt a bit too hand-holdy with the ink wheels guiding you perfectly to the next opponent. S tier. Stage 4, try curling, Alterna's 11th most popular athleisure activity. As the name suggests, you only get to use a curling bomb for this one. You go down a linear path, taking on challenge after challenge, having to use all the different curling bomb mechanics to clear the stage. A solid S tier. Stage 5, conveyor belt tightening. The entire stage is a conveyor belt with a bunch of boxes that you need to break. If you don't break them in time, well, tough luck, buddy. This feels like Righteous Rails but on solid ground, so it's a lot more fair. S tier. Stage 6, time trial and error. Instead of a conveyor belt, you have to travel to where the next balloons are and pop them. If you run out of time, well, tough luck, buddy. This one got pretty stressful, especially with the Squiffer. S tier. Stage 7, rail pass. The name alone made me shake in fear, as I might be facing a third Righteous Rails in a row, but thankfully this was just a stage focused on the ink rails. You know, the ones where you get to move at your own pace, freely jump between and swim through to avoid being sniped. S tier. This area was the shortest of them all, thank goodness. Now on to the next one, the Landfill Dreamland. I sure hope it's not full with a bunch of garbage stages. Stage 1, propelled to greatness. It's the propeller stage. Shoot the fans to move the platforms. That's it. K tier. Stage 2, Octo Hoppers don't have a sense of humor, and they hate puns. This stage introduces a new variant of the Octarians, the Octo Hoppers, who basically have a sloshing machine and pogo sticks. They were more annoying than challenging. K tier. Stage 3, let's put a pin in that. The name is at least a bit funny, because you are the pin, trying to avoid all the bowling ball Octarians from rolling over you. K tier. Stage 4, Splash the Block Party. A soaker block stage where the only challenge is this Octo Splatling guy at the end. K tier. Again. Stage 5, Amusing a Bemused Muse. You're just breaking boxes to create a box sculpture of the thing on the left, which is an orca named after our friendly AI friend who will splat you the instant you break the wrong box. It is a slower stage but a nice change of pace. S tier. Stage 6, those aren't birds. You're just playing table tennis at this point. If the boxes fall off the stage, you're done for. And once again, the suggested weapon was not the best one to use for this stage, making me miss and die a bunch of times, but it was the right amount of difficult, so S tier. Stage 7, charge now, splat later. A GooTuber stage? It's not a new weapon or anything like that. I guess the game just wanted to give us a stage that reminds us that chargers can hold their charge even when in squid form. K tier. Stage 8, easy ride, tricky targets. Righteous Rails again, but with balloons. At this point, I'm just curious who was so in love with Righteous Rails that they decided to include it in the game 5 times so far. Oh, what's this? They put a checkpoint on this one? S tier. Stage 9, flying worst class. It's another one of those hitch a ride on the flying guys, but this time it's the small guys too, and you gotta trigger a switch to open up a path so you can reach the ending. S tier. Stage 10, ink fast hotshot. There's moving balloons which float away if you take too long, pop the wrong balloon and you lose. Similar to the curling bomb stage, you walk from challenge to challenge, with a checkpoint between each one. S tier. Stage 11, stamp 'em out. It's the Splatana Stamper intro stage, so it's fairly easy until the very last, where you had a mini girl power situation with several Octolings trying to splat you. S tier. Stage 12, the path to perfect spanmanship. You've got a limited time and a brush to rush through and trigger a bunch of switches. At the end, you get to look at your beautiful connect the dots artwork. I call mine Little Fuzzy. A tier. Looks like there was at least one good stage in this area, but we're finally done. Now on to the Eco Forest Tree Hills. Stage 1, trouble round every corner. This is like that stage at the end of the tutorial section, except the bad guys can dodge now. K tier. Stage 2, the upside of enemy backsides. Get to the end and splat a bunch of enemies, except all the enemies are weak to attacks from behind. K tier. Stage 3, uh-oh, too many snipers. There were only 3 snipers on the stage, which is definitely not too many. K tier. Stage 4, barriers. They got you covered. They introduced the big bubbler disco ball tall Octarian, which is just really annoying to fight. K tier. Stage 5, a compulsive collector's paradise. It's Pac-Man with a timer. Collect all the power eggs to win. Kind of creative at least. S tier. Stage 6, zipping over the neighborhood. A very fun Spider-Man stage. A tier. Stage 7, one-way ride through Target Town. Righteous rails yet again. But at least we get a cool setting this time with the whole upside down city and its reflections in the water, and this stage actually felt very satisfying to play through with the bowl, so I'm gonna give this one S tier. Stage 8, making waves with splashdowns. You gotta clear the stage using only splashdowns, a special which isn't even available in the multiplayer anymore, at least not when I was making this video. Felt pretty satisfying to play through. A tier. Stage 9, low vis, high risk. It's low tide, fog wave, but we are the salmonid sneaking around and splatting everyone. S tier. Stage 10, shooter on rails. Yup, more Righteous Rails clones, this time with tiny switches instead of boxes or balloons, but at least it comes with checkpoints and loops around the hardest part, so you have lots of opportunities to get it right. S tier. Stage 11, simply ziptastic. What happens when you take Spider-Man and give him launch pads on the walls? A really fast-paced, high-octane zipcaster stage, but it low-key gave me vertigo from how ham it goes, so A tier. Stage 12, you go far if you shoot far. Look guys, they put more 8 towers in the game. Everything else about the stage is kinda bland. It's just ink the switches with your long-range weapon and splat the Octarians getting in your way. S tier, just for that more 8 tower reference. Stage 13, learn to reflect. And this one is on the bank. This is an angle shooter stage. You know, the new sub that everyone loves so much? Yeah, no, this is jank. It's hard to get the angles right, so most of the time I just cheese the enemies by throwing it right at their face, but the worst part is that in the final segment of the stage, you have to get several angle shots perfectly in a short period of time, and it was kind of annoying if nothing else. K tier. We're finally done with the 5th area of the game and line marking ourselves towards the last set of non-spoiler stages, the Happiness Research Lab. Stage 1, bet you missed us. This is like Girl Power Station on easy mode, but with fog. Splat all the Octolinks to unlock the final checkpoint. S tier. Stage 2, Octarian Heights. This is just like that climbing the corporate splatter stage, except it's much harder to climb and all the enemies live up to that cold, heartless corporate drone stereotype. S tier. Stage 3, Torture Tour. Oh no, there's enemies around every corner, except this time they can actually splat you, and oh boy did they splat me. Thankfully you also get a bunch of different specials to help you out. A nice balanced late game stage. S tier. Stage 4, Conserve Ink. Splats sustainably. Limited ink stage, but you get to use the Splashomatic instead of a blaster. There's tons of enemies trying to get in your way, and I would like to file a restraining order against this flying bomb guy who followed me halfway through the stage. But this stage is actually pretty easy if you just dodge, so it's a solid S tier. Stage 5, the enemy ink is lava. This is a timed limited ink stage where you have to use your curling bomb to make a path through enemy ink. Needless to say, it is a pretty challenging stage, but thankfully it had a checkpoint halfway through. A tier. Stage 6, Keep It Rolling. A roller only mission where you actually have to splat all of the enemies to finish the stage. The only downside is that there was no timer. Okay, maybe this isn't a downside, but it really felt like there would be a timer on this stage considering its name. S tier. Stage 7, that sinking feeling. You try to make your way to the top of the stage while every platform you touch begins to sink towards the water down below. You gotta go fast on this one and make as little mistakes as possible. It is a very well made high adrenaline stage. A tier. Stage 8, breathe in, breathe out. It's like they knew that the previous stage would give people anxiety, so they gave us a nice reminder to take a breather and relax. This is definitely a stage where you have to take it easy or else you'll fall in the water like I did. The Octarians were a bit annoying in this one, but S tier. Stage 9, dive and dash. Most of the path is already inked for you. You just need to swim as fast as possible and occasionally trigger an ink wheel or pufferfish to pave the path that isn't already in your ink. Also, you gotta dodge. I just gotta say, this stage felt really cool to play through, so I will be giving this one V tier. Stage 10, mission fly fishing. Thankfully, there weren't any fly fish on this stage. It was an inkjet only stage near the end of the game for some reason, which meant it was pretty easy to do. There are cool parts where you have to make the wibbly wobbly flower bloom, but that's about it. The rest was just maneuvering around obstacles. S tier. Stage 11, don't tease with the keys. The Tentacooks are those fast, skittish Octarians that spit out splat bombs as they run away. One is annoying enough to deal with, but in this stage you gotta chase down and splat 4 of them. And here I was ready to celebrate the fact that these Octarians didn't make the cut in Splatoon 3. S tier. Stage 12, enter the Stamp Gauntlet. This is a hammer only stage where you gotta break all the bowling ball Octolings before the time runs out. And at the end you gotta chuck your hammer at the guy rolling around the fence at the edge of the stage. The weird part is that there's also an option to do the stage without a special, which as it turns out was a lie. It's just the same stage with the hammer, but the hammer will run out, so you're gonna have to pick up another can and activate it again, making it a bit more difficult difficult. It was quite the challenge and quite creative, so A tier. We've covered all of the main game stages, so if you want to avoid spoilers about the bosses and endgame section of Splatoon 3, now is the time to go. Thanks for watching. For those of you who are still here, buckle up because it's time to talk about the bosses. Boss 1, Octavio. With the way the game started out, I was worried that it's gonna be another one of those Octavio is the final boss games, but this time, Octavio is the first boss. He definitely felt a lot weaker than in the previous games, and that's because he doesn't have the great Zapfish powering up his Octobot, but he did function like he does in the past. Avoid his arms, then come up to make him punch himself and then splat Octavio. They did mix it up a bit by adding a vacuum to his suit, which will suck up your ink, and you have to use Little Buddy to block the vacuum, which was pretty funny. Overall, it was a great intro boss fight. A tier. Boss number 2, the future stares back. Fry. At first, I thought they were really gonna make us fight the Octostomp for a third game in a row, but nope. This thing is hollowed out and filled with angry ink eels, and that giant wall of eels being slammed into my face managed to splat me more than one time. It was a pretty cool and creative fight, so I gotta give this one the B tier. Boss 3, the pursuit of the precious. Shiver. Sorry gamers, sharklings do not exist, but a shark with sunglasses and a Splatana wiper attack pattern does exist. Master Maga is the true boss of this stage, and although the fight wasn't too difficult, I definitely enjoyed all the random mechanics like the maw attack from Salmon Run, jumping between water spouts, barfing out a stingray laser at us. Hopefully there won't be a shark run in the near future because that's gonna make the salmonids look like total wimps. I also like how you could use Little Buddy in this fight, so once again, V tier. Boss number 4, the obscurest Charo, I don't know how to read this word, Big Man. I hear that this boss fight is just a straight up ripoff from Mario Sunshine. Now, I do have Mario Sunshine from that special edition they sold a while ago, but I still haven't played the game, and I probably won't play it anytime soon. But I did see clips of the battle, and yeah, this is definitely gonna make the Big Man fight lose a lot of creativity points. Apart from having a bunch of shadow clones on himself, Big Man also has his Splat Bombs, Ink Strike, and 75 freaking torpedoes, making him quite annoying to fight. Sorry Big Man fans, I gotta give this one the S tier. Having completed all of the stages and all of the bosses, it's time to cover the ascent towards the rocket. Stage 1, the Alterna Space Center entrance. You gotta team up with Little Buddy to take care of the obstacles, including straight up shutting down an Octo Shower. I didn't know Little Buddy could do that. At the end of the stage, you conveniently get your weapon back. Thanks Orca. S tier. Stage 2, Alterna Space Center Hangar. The game gives you a canned special that helps you clear out the enemies in your way and then repeat with a different special. Kinda cool, but also suspiciously convenient. Most of the specials made it a very easy stage to clear. S tier. Stage 3, Alterna Space Center Lift. A random fog is keeping everything in the dark. You ride down an elevator, activating switches and splatting every Octarian that gets launched onto the platform with you. Eventually, you reach the end. It felt a bit anticlimactic if you ask me. S tier. Stage 4, the Spirit Lifter, Steerage. After going through the world's longest pipe, you start to wonder, will this actually turn into a stage? You have to go around in circles and climb towers to the top while facing off against waves of enemies. At first, I thought this would be similar to that one stage where the floor would sink, or the water level rises, or something, but nope, you can just take it slow. There is a bit of fuzz on the stage, so you do have to avoid that. And also, don't try to use the crab tank against the bowling balls because they'll just bounce you off the stage like you're an 8-ball from Octo Expansion. At the end of the stage, you find the missing great Zapfish, and then just leave it there. S tier. Stage 5, the Spirit Lifter, First Class. Finally, we get a good stage in this ascension process and also proof that my theory of the use of the golden eggs was somewhat correct. They grow into these energy cores that are then used to power things like this rocket ship. This is also a Zipcaster only stage where you bounce around the walls collecting all of the different Zapfishies and unlocking the next floor. I did have a Jump King moment where I forgot how the Zipcaster worked and then fell all the way to the bottom of the map. It was pretty annoying, but I'll live. The higher up you go, the more fuzz there is, making it harder to zip around, and they added a sniper to make it extra challenging. A good stage in my opinion. A tier. Alright, if for some reason you want to avoid spoilers, but you're still here, this is your last chance to leave. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to tell you about how Tartar and Little Judd fused to become Thick Judd, and you don't want to know about Thick Judd. Final boss. The final boss in Splatoon 3 is our favorite sussy Mr. Grizz, who is an actual bear, and the battle has 2 phases. In the first phase, we collect some golden eggs to clear up the fuzz, splat a few Octarians, and then eat some fuzz ooze from the boss man himself. And we do this 3 times. In the meantime, Mr. Grizz attacks us with several spicy moves, like his Bear Claw Slash, which is just 5 Splatana attacks at once, his Rolly attack, which spins the whole ship around, and his Splashdown that knocked me into fuzz at least once. Oh yeah, and he also has a killer whale. This guy is packing packing all sort of moves. Paired with that awesome music, I gotta give this phase 1 of the fight V tier. In phase 2, Little Buddy becomes Big Buddy or Huge Fry according to Fry. I sure hope we don't have to fight one of those in Salmon Run. Oh yeah, and Octavio shows up with a literal vacuum and his own space saucer thing, which you then use to approach and suck up fuzz from Mr. Grizz while he tries to solo the giant space salmonid. A couple of fuzzy Octarians do show up to get in your way, and the vacuum felt a bit weird to use, and once it was all done, you had to fire this random laser at Mr. Grizz. This whole phase was an absolute spectacle to watch, but certain parts felt very random and very weird, and I just wasn't feeling it, so I gotta give this one A tier. And that concludes the Splatoon 3 single player mode tier list. Psych! We still have the hidden stage, the one you unlock after completing all of the previous stages at least once, after Alterna. After Alterna 1, platforming. When I first saw this stage, little old me thought it was going to be quite the simple one. Just jump around some platforms and splat a couple of enemies, right? It was all going smooth till I hit that wall where you can't swim up on it, and instead you have to charge a Squid Surge. And let me tell you gamers, this was the first time I needed to Squid Surge in this game. I had completely forgotten that the feature even existed. Thankfully I was able to get through the windmill area just fine, and then the game gave me these weird wall jump things where you gotta leap left and right like in a Sonic game. Then it tested my timing by having me squid on a wall and then drop off at the right moment, which was pretty cool. And just when I thought everything was going smoothly, I failed to make a jump from one incline to the next, falling to my doom. And that's when I realized they didn't put any checkpoints on this stage. Needless to say, my next few attempts did not go as smoothly. I just don't do well under pressure. Eventually I made it back to the inclines and once again felt like an idiot. I did eventually clear the inclines and made it through the water conveyor belt thing, but at this point I was just sick of the stage. I know this was supposed to be a difficult post-game trial, but it wasn't so much difficult as it was annoying. O tier. After Alterna 2. Oh look, it's Righteous Rails again, my favorite. O tier, O tier, O tier. Okay, so despite my animosity towards Righteous Rails, this one wasn't too bad. You had to hop between several grind rounds to get all of the balloons, and most of the movements didn't feel like cheap tricks. Also, despite its lack of checkpoints, this stage wasn't too long. My only beef with it is that ending sequence where you gotta pop a bunch of balloons while falling, meaning that you cannot recharge any ink if you miss one. Well, A tier. After Alterna 3, Soaker Blocks. This is the most forgettable of the 4 After Alterna stages. You gotta use Little Buddy to help you activate the Soaker Blocks and make your way through enemy fire without falling to your doom, which I did twice. Both of the times was because I failed to press the B button to jump while walking towards the next platform though. I really liked the part where you had to hitch a ride on one of those flying Octarians and carefully time the Soaker spread so that you don't knock yourself off. Oh yeah, and this stage also has a checkpoint. Who would have thought those are useful to have and nice? It would make a stage not annoying. A tier. After Alterna 4, Girl Power. If they were gonna take inspiration from Octo Expansion, there was no way that the developers would skip out on the most memorable stage of them all, Girl Power Station. You've gotta fight through several waves of advanced Octarians who, despite being just code and video game, were somehow more challenging than the S-rank players that dunk on me in Anarchy. Of course, this is because you are their only target and there's like 7 of them at the same time. And also they get to spam all of their specials at you at the same time and making it quite hard to survive. These nameless Octarians are the true final boss of Splatoon 3, and for that, I have to give them V tier. Okay, now we're done talking about all of the stages in the main single player mode for real. Which of these stages was your favorite? Were there any stages that you really disliked? What are your thoughts on Righteous Rails? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next one. Okay, bye. No science here, haha.